Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the ACC Coaches Football Media Teleconference. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode, and we will conduct a question-and-answer session. If you have a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Today's call is being recorded Wednesday, November 1st, 2017. And now I'd like to turn the conference over to Mike Finn. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, and welcome to today's ACC Football Coaches Media Teleconference. As usual, transcripts and audio files of today's call will be available later this afternoon on the ACC website, theacc.com. For our purposes today, please limit your questions to one question and then a follow-up. If you have further questions, feel free to get back into the queue, and we'll get around to you as time allows. And with that, we'll go ahead and begin with Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly, who's Fighting Irish, ranked 3rd in the college football playoff rankings, 5th in AP, 8th in the Amway Coaches Poll, will host Wake Forest this Saturday at Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend. The game will have a 3:30 p.m. kickoff, will be nationally televised by NBC. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Yeah, well, we continue our swing into the ACC with another very tough opponent in Wake Forest, coming off a very impressive 42-32 win against Louisville. Really impressive offensive performance last week, over 600 yards. John Walford was outstanding at the quarterback position, accounting for 6 touchdowns. Very explosive offense. Defensively, they lead the country in tackles for a loss. They get you off schedule and have done a really good job. This is well-coached. Dave Clawson's done a great job at Wake Forest, and you can see this is a football team where you have to be on top of your game for 4 quarters. So another very good challenge for us.
Questions for Coach Kelly?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good morning. In terms of Josh Adams' development this year, is he doing certain things better than he did last year, or some of it, the people around him improving as well?
Well, I think it's been his physical development since January. His lower body strength, explosiveness. So there's a maturation there in terms of, his physical. I think there's also, he last year was injured earlier in the season and really didn't come to full strength until middle of the year, then really finished strong. I think he came into the season, very healthy from a great off-season. I think he's really just built on where he left off last year. And obviously, the 5 guys up front, including the tight end and receivers, are working so well together in a run-based offense compared to last year.
Did you see this coming? I guess did you privately kind of talk to your staff and go, I think he's really poised for takeoff this year?
Well, it was a conscious decision knowing the assets that we have. It was a matter of just making sure that we went to the strengths, and I knew that Josh was capable of playing at a high level, and we wanted to, take advantage of a great offensive line coming back and Josh's talents, and that's why we've gone in the direction that we have philosophically, offensively.
Thank you.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. And we have a question from Christopher Huddle with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Brian. How you doing?
Good, Chris. Thanks.
Talking about Wake Forest, I was looking at, we played them a couple years ago in 2015. Are they a different team in 2015 than this year? I know they have that running game. We talked on Sunday about the running game, and they've been improving each week, and they beat Louisville. Are they a different squad than the last time you played them?
Much more mature on offense. I think from an offensive perspective, the weapons outstanding. The quarterback so much more seasoned, if you will, and he's been in the system now. So, 2 more years in Coach Clausen's offensive system, you can see the maturation of this offense, the big playability, the ability to spread you out, play with tempo, very dangerous on offense. There's some remnants certainly of Coach Elko and his philosophy, but it's still Coach Clausen's team, and so you can see that defense, although there are some new wrinkles there, they're still philosophically a similar look. They're still bringing fire zone pressures and playing very smart defense, very fundamentally sound.
I know this time last year you were dealing with a lot of injuries, and I know Jimbo Fisher's going through the same thing this year. If Jimbo Fisher gave you a call today, what would you tell him to help out with this season? Because you went through it last year.
Well, I think Jimbo doesn't need much of my advice, but I can tell you that from our perspective, it's always been next man in, and to always have your team prepared for that, and he does a great job of not making any excuses. He hasn't made any excuses about losing his quarterback, and you just don't. College football is such that you're always going to lose, some players, and you just got to be prepared to get the next guy in. And I know he's been at it a long time, and like I said, I think we're all understanding as coaches that you're going to lose key players, and you just got to plug the next guy in and get ready to go.
Well, Brian, good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Coach Kelly?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone.
Coach, before we let you go, just give us your thoughts about being ranked 3rd in the first CFP rankings last night.
Well, I mean, certainly we're better being 3rd than 13th, but we're only 2/3 of the way through it. So this isn't a time to look back and see where you are. This is a time to keep your eyes in front of you and keep driving towards the finish line. And our guys have done a great job. They're going to have to do it for the next 4 weeks, and then we'll kind of pick up and take a look at where we are. But again, we've positioned ourselves after 2/3 of the season in a good position. Now it's up to us to finish it off.
Any more questions for Coach Kelly?
To register for a question, please press 1 4 on your telephone.
Coach, thanks for being with us today. Good luck this week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Correct. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll be back with Coach Mendenhall of Virginia in just about 2 minutes. Okay, we're back, and we're now joined by Virginia head coach Bronco Mendenhall, whose Cavaliers will host Coastal Division rival Georgia Tech this Saturday at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville. The game will have a 3 p.m. kickoff, be televised nationally by 15 different regional sports networks, including NBC Sports Washington in Virginia and Fox Sports South in Georgia. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Yeah, the work continues here at the University of Virginia, diligently working to build our team and our program and compete as hard as we can and as well as we can. Anxious to play another Coastal opponent and again, to compete and learn and grow. And so with that, I'll take questions.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of David Teal with Daily Press. Please proceed.
Good morning, Bronco.
Morning.
Micah is up for awards off the field, academic All-American, postgraduate scholarships and such. What in your time there have been your observations about him away from the football field?
Micah, we have a saying here that and what I promote and what I believe is ultimately how you do one thing is how you do everything. And Micah does everything, no matter what area it is in his life, with just the highest of standards and the highest of excellence. So what will be announced, that probably hasn't been already, but he was selected as one of the 13 members today of oh man, I forget all of the exact terminology, but the
National Football Foundation.
Exactly right, and received an $18,000 postgraduate scholarship, which then gets $5,000 for the academic support here, and so he's one of 13, and now he's one of the finalists for the academic Heisman, which is just, it's extraordinary, because when you consider how hard he plays and how much time he invests in preparing to play football, which he does, and then every time I hear about Micah, no matter what area, from someone in the community, it's just, man, what an exemplary young man. And then the professors or the teachers or classmates, there's nothing but excellence as part of who he is. And it's so important in helping us build a culture of what UVA football really looks like. And we believe in what's called and that means it's football and academics and social and spiritual and service, and he's exactly what I would like an entire team to look like.
And was this evident to you almost immediately upon your arrival?
It took time, just as with any player in any relationship. But it just, day after day, you just start to form the clarity of who someone really is, regardless of circumstance. And I've seen him after wins and after losses and after in-betweens and good days and bad days. And he just is, man, he just works so hard to be exceptional. And it's, we have an extra session, and we meet and practice really early. The team meetings are at 6:30 every morning. Well, there's another optional session that's at 6, which means the guys have to be here, before. And it's in the 5 o'clock range in the morning, and Mike is one of about 12 players on the entire team that he's there every single day. That's the earliest guys here doing extra to start the day, and man, it's so powerful. It's inspiring to me as a 51-year-old man and father to see a young guy doing extra just for the sake of there's extra to do, and the example that's setting is just I'm so appreciative of that.
Thank you.
You bet.
Our next question is from the line of Brad Franklin with Rivals.com. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach. I was just curious. You mentioned Monday that Jack English was going to have an MRI on that knee. I'm just curious what the results of that were, and also, too, if Juan is practicing at this point or if he's still kind of nursing that quad or groin injury.
Yeah. So to the Jack English question, good news. And in terms of there isn't anything that's going to be surgical or anything that's going to require long-term care. And now it's just a matter of how fast that recovery. So it certainly will not be for this week, but hopefully before the end of the season. And I can't really be more specific than that. And with Juan, he is practicing, which is a great boost for everybody.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Any more questions for Coach Mendenhall?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4. We have a question from the line of Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Yeah, Bronco, Kurt was completing passes in the 60 to 65% range up until the last 2 weeks, where he's been closer to 50%. How much of that do you think is, the shoulder fatigue or whatever he's got, and or what do you attribute that to?
More mental than physical, I think, is what you're asking. Kurt, much like the rest of our team, self-imposed and also felt this new milestone possibly for the program that hasn't happened for a while, of getting into postseason play, which started to overshadow not only a given opponent, but the preparation, and just causing interference that started to affect how we played. And a little bit more hesitant, a little bit tighter, and a little bit more pressure-filled. And so my assessment is that was affecting his and our play as much, if not more than anything, physical.
Well, now that you're still in the same place,
yes,
needing one win to be bowl eligible.
Yes.
Have you banned any conversation about that, or?
No, I've actually, I didn't mention it during those 2 weeks, and was just focusing even harder on the process. But it just became clear after 2 weeks worth of just seeing us play tighter and less impassioned, and so I've taken the other approach. I've just kind of called it out, and just the brutal fact is, yes, this is the case. This is what the rest of the season will look like. This is the quality of opponents. This is how we're playing. This is how we're playing. This is what we need to do to improve it. And so now that hopefully we've said all that and got it out, now can we go back to preparing and playing the way that we're capable of? So I've done just the opposite of not banning anything. I've actually, kind of had it come out of the closet, so to speak, and let all the stuff we've been storing just flesh out, and now hopefully we can close the door and get back to work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Coach Mendenhall?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. We have a question from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Bronco. How you doing?
Hey, well.
Talk about playing against Georgia Tech, because I know they do a lot of that option stuff, the triple option and all that stuff. How do you get yourself prepared for that during this week?
It requires a lot of off-season work and a lifetime of lessons. The first time I defended an option team, it was humiliating and embarrassing and just enlightening that I didn't know what it was, how to defend it, or what to do to help my team, and have spent a long time studying and trying to prepare as best as possible to give our teams the best chance. And recent history has said we've done a pretty good job with that. But any given week, you can learn and be humbled, and that hopefully provides growth. But it takes, even with the really busy schedule of college football coaches in season, it requires even more. And we all know that, and we're trying to give our players the best chance. And it's a very exhausting week. And if you play well, really gratifying. And if you don't, there's learning that hopefully applies for the next year, that you can really help your players have success.
And do you think this actually, when you actually had to go play against the option, does this mess up your whole entire playbook for the following week? There's a lot of coaches that are so into the option for this week, and then next week you got to go back to what you've been doing before.
Yeah, you have to step out of some normalcy of what you do, and how fast you can transition in and back out usually affects how well you do, not only the week against the option, but how you do the following week. That's part of the challenge of defending it.
Well, good luck this week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we have a question from Leo Haggerty with It Sports Magazine. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach.
Morning.
Coach, in the interest of fairness, should the ACC schedule makers make sure that both teams have a bye if they've got to play on the Thursday or Friday night the following week, to make sure it's an even playing field?
I would vote for that. And again, in just due to fairness and equality. I mean, we all want a level playing field, and I've been part of a Saturday night game, and then having to play a Thursday, and then the opponent had a bye week the week before, and it's a real challenge. We're in a position right now where there are players that we've had available to redshirt the entire year that we're going to have to play this week, just because of what our roster looks like, and so, man, when you consider what that looks like for the season, but also what it looks like on a weekly basis, especially now that the entertainment part is so important, and there's shows that even announce rankings and et cetera. If the rankings are that important, then we ought to have clarity on and equality in when teams play and hours of rest and days of rest if we're looking to have it be accurate.
Thank you, Coach. Last question, and thank you for your time today. What's the one thing you need to improve on the most the rest of the season, in your mind?
Oh, consistency. We have some capable football players, and we have kids that really want to improve and build a quality program and a sustainable program here, but we're yet to demonstrate consistency in all three phases at the rate we need to in ACC play. So consistency is my mantra at this point.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Coach, this is Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
See you.
We now welcome Clemson head football coach Dabo Swinney, whose Tigers ranked 4th in the college football playoff rankings last night, 6th by AP, 5th by the Amway coaches poll, will travel to Raleigh, North Carolina for a Saturday game against 20th-ranked NC State at Carter Finley Stadium. The game will have a 3:30 p.m. kickoff and be nationally televised by ABC. Coach, a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Well, we are excited that we got back on track last week. Really proud of our team and how they played, and just kind of responded, to a setback, and looking forward to another big challenge this week. That's just kind of the way it is in this conference. Every single week you're going to have a tough challenge, and NC State is a really, really good football team, a very complete football team. They're a veteran-led team. I think they got 21 starters back, and I think 19 of those guys are either graduates or seniors or redshirt juniors. They got excellent scheme on both sides. They're well coached, and and right now, they're in first place. I mean, they're undefeated in this conference. So, huge challenge for us, and especially at their place. But really looking forward to it. This is where you want to be. It's November, and you're still in the hunt for the division, and that's our next goal. And we know we're going to have to play very, very well to have a chance to continue chasing that goal.
Questions for Coach Swinney?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. And we have a question from the line of David Ubben with The Athletic. Please proceed.
What was the difference between the Lamar Jackson that you saw last year and the one you saw this year?
Just this year he's just a little more mature player. I think he just has a better command of the offense this year than maybe last year as a first-year starter. He's done a good job of sitting in the pocket and going through his progressions, checking the ball down. From just what I've seen of him, we played him obviously early in the season, and but he's electric just like he's always been. I know the season hasn't gone maybe the way they wanted it to from a win-loss standpoint, but he's still a great player.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Our next question is from the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good morning. What jumps out at you when you see Bradley Chubb on film to kind of explain why he's so impactful, and what's kind of your offensive approach in trying to neutralize him this week?
He's the real deal, man. He's long, he's fast, he's explosive. He plays with excellent technique. He's a very knowledgeable, instinctive player. I mean, he's a senior. You know, guy's been there a while. He's played a lot of football, and so he's just, you know, you're not going against a rookie over there who's kind of green. This guy's got all the little nuances down. He understands what you're trying to do offensively, and so that allows him to anticipate. And when you have the type of speed and skill and strength that he has, plus you have knowledge, you're a tough guy to handle, which he is. And then the other thing is he's surrounded by other great players. I mean, all those guys on that defensive line are probably going to play in the NFL. So it's not just him. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, over on the other side, Street and Roseboro, I mean, those are good players. And B.J. Hill, Justin Jones inside. I mean, he's got good people around him. So, you know, it's not like you can just, you know, go away from him and neutralize him, but you just try to do the best you can. I mean, we've played a lot of good players, and you know, we'll win some. I'm sure we'll lose some, but you have to have a kind of a plan A, B, and C when you you know, go against a guy like this, and we certainly will have that in place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from the line of David Hale with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Hey, Devo.
Hey, Dave.
I talked to Christian before the season, and I was asking him about the offensive lines that you guys played last year, and he ranked NC State as probably the toughest that you guys faced. It seems like that group might even be better this year. What has been your impressions of what you've seen of them on film, and how much fun is it to kind of have a challenge of a really great offensive line versus your really great defensive line and kind of see two strengths in the trenches going head-to-head?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what championship football is all about. I mean, it's, you know, for the most part, our side is pretty much down to us and NC State. So, you know, you when you're in the mix for some type of championship, you're usually pretty good in the trenches, and that's the case for both of these teams. So the strength of our team is our offensive line and defensive line, and the strength of their team is their offensive line and defensive line. So it's definitely going to be a great battle, and they are very good up front. In fact, I thought they blocked us well last year. That was a very physical game, and but same as I said earlier, I mean, you're looking at a bunch of fourth-year juniors, graduates, seniors. I mean, it's a veteran first group that have played a ton of football and have a good understanding of what they're doing. And then, again, on the flip side, they're going against a veteran D-line. So it should be a heck of a challenge, and the same thing for our offensive line going against their defensive line. Just, you know, vets on vets, strength on strength, and, you know, that's usually what championship games come down to.
Awesome. Thanks, Devin.
Okay.
Our next question is from Ken Segura with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. Hey, I was wondering, do you know yet how you're going to approach the early signing period as regards to expectations about your commitments signing?
How am I going to approach it? Well, I mean, guys that are committed, I mean, why wouldn't they sign?
Right.
You know, so, I mean, I would say if you have a guy that's committed that doesn't sign on the signing date, then you might better go recruit. But if you're just recruiting guys that aren't committed, then, you know, I mean, I don't have any expectation because, you know, they may not be ready to sign. They're not even committed. So I don't have any type of expectation. Now, there's probably some uncommitted guys that do want to sign early, and, you know, they just haven't made a commitment yet. And so I have no idea how that'll play out. But as far as our committed guys, or guys that are committed and obviously can't talk about anybody specifically or things like that. Right. But I think for most coaches out there, if you have commits and you have a December signing period, because there's really nothing else to do. I mean, it's just kind of a dead period up till January. And So I think most coaches are going to expect their commits to sign.
Right.
And like I said, if they don't, then probably got some conversation to have.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Our next question is from the line of Samuel Evers with Rocky Mount Telegram. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, last year NC State gave you a pretty good scare. I was just wondering, what you maybe remember about that one specifically, and if you guys are kind of extra wary going into this year, considering they've only got better than last year.
It was a great game, and we were fortunate to win. They created some turnovers. We turned it. We had 3 trips inside the 5 that we got 0 points. We had another trip inside the 20. We got 0 points, and we threw a pick 6. So I remember a lot of bad, but yet we still won the game. So, which ultimately is all that matters. So it was a very tough game. One again, we were fortunate to win. A lot of mistakes in the game and physical game. We're going to have to play a lot better if we're going to have a chance to win this year.
Gotcha. And then last year at the end of that game, did you have a feeling that this team was maybe a little bit more on the rise and would be pretty good going into the next year?
Yeah, I've always had great respect for NC State. I really have. As long as I've been here, I've always felt like that. They're one of the toughest challenges that we face year in and year out. And I know we've been fortunate to win most of them, but none of them are easy. There's been a lot of close games, and but certainly looking at their personnel last year and then the makeup of their team coming into this year, again, you're sitting there with 21 starters back. You ought to be good, especially when they're all seniors and juniors and graduates, and that's exactly where they are. That's why they're in first place right now in the division, undefeated in this conference.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
Coaches, Mike Finn and Greensboro, thanks for being with us today, but good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now joined by Florida State head coach Jimbo Fisher, whose Seminoles will host Atlantic Division rival Syracuse this Saturday at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. The game will have a 12:20 p.m. kickoff. Will be televised nationally to the 120 markets of the ACC network, which includes WTSM TV in Syracuse and WTLF TV. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Yes. After watching the film last week, I said it. BC did a great job. They beat us in all 3 phases and played an excellent game. We need to rebound back this week and play. We had a really good practice on Monday and Tuesday and play a very good Syracuse team who's playing really hot. They can throw the football down the field. We've got 2 outstanding receivers that are tops in the country and receptions. The quarterback's doing a great job. They're running the football much differently. Their new tight end and things causes a lot of problems with what he does. Defensively, they're doing an outstanding job. I think they're one of the top teams in the country in third down defense, giving up about 23% of their third downs, mixing different looks, do different things on defense, really doing an outstanding job in that regard, playing outstanding football on the special teams. We'll have our hands full. We need to play well and get back and play a very good Syracuse team. Questions?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from David Ubin with The Athletic. Please proceed.
Jimbo, how would you compare the Lamar Jackson that you guys faced in 2016 to the one that you guys played this year?
It was outstanding in our game. He ran and threw it, made the plays, and made critical plays when he had the big drive when he had to, and he was very dynamic, and I thought he was outstanding both years.
Where have you seen him develop the most?
I can't say that because I don't see him that much. Occasionally on film, and then when we played him. But I think his maturity and just overall knowledge of how he's doing and what he's playing, his poise, his pressure. You can just see a more relaxed guy. Like I say, I don't think he was unrelaxed at any other time. But this guy, and everybody knows what he does. So I think him still being able to put up the numbers he does is amazing because when people game plan for you and they have a whole year to plan for you, and he's still putting up numbers and doing those things, I think it's amazing.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next question is from the line of Leo Haggerty with It's Sports Magazine. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Coach, you've always been a big proponent of having a second bye week. Are you still of that opinion?
Yeah, I do. I think the kids do because of school and everything else. I mean, and the mental break and relax they do, and then for the health and the issues that you get from healing up, I definitely do.
Coach, last question. Thank you for your time today. In the interest of fairness, should the ACC schedule makers make sure that teams that have to play Thursday and Friday both have a bye week the week before so the playing field is equal?
I mean, if you can possibly do that, I know saying it and wanting to do that and doing it, I think when you get into making schedules is very tough on our conference. And I know we've had those discussions before. I definitely do on Thursdays, Fridays, make it much tougher. If you could, in a perfect world, without a doubt, I think those are definitely could be done. But I think that's easier said than done in the format in which we have, not just the ACC, but I'm talking about college football.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Ken Segura with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering, with the early signing period, is it your expectation that kids that are committed are going to be signing them?
Yes, you hope so. I mean, that's the plan. And what you have, yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, if they didn't want to sign, would you still consider them committed, or how would you approach that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be signed, but if you're saying you're still committed, depending on what their visits are or what their reasons are, I think each situation would have to be evaluated differently. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they can still say they're committed because, like I say, committed is not signed. So, I mean, they could still be committed, or they may say that they want to open up to recruiting. I think each end of the situation would be different.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next question is from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good morning. Obviously, you don't know what injuries are going to befall you during the year, but do you privately kind of look at your offense this year before the season and think, the margin for error is less this year with Dalvin gone, or do you kind of foresee potential storm clouds on the horizon this year offensively?
No, we do, but at the same time, I thought, losing the people we have, I mean, we've lost some significant people, not just skill guy. I mean, Keith Gavin, we had an outstanding camp. I mean, Auden Tate has been hurt all year. He's still having a good year. Nooney, I mean, and then your quarterback, and then you lose your tailback too. So, I mean, plus a couple offensive linemen. So, I mean, we still felt like we had a great offense, and we, some of that thing was got youth in some key situations and different scenarios, and had a very tough schedule as far as who they played defensively early. We never had those some of those buffer games at times where you can build confidence and continuity in what you're trying to do, and your numbers reflect that also. But we felt very confident. We had a really good off season, and we felt very good going into the camp with our offense.
Does Syracuse, as you look at them on film, do you see certain things that kind of make them more dangerous to you than they were in the building process of Syracuse a year ago?
Yeah, I see them playing with much more confidence and knowledge of what they're doing, and they're comfortable in their systems, and as much as scheme and what they're doing with, the guys are playing faster, much more confident, much more consistent, and they understand you can see that when they play, and that to me is the ultimate thing you want to have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Matthew Gutierrez with the Daily Orange. Please proceed.
Good morning, Jimbo. Thank you for your time. You mentioned Syracuse. Pierce, first time in a while, Syracuse has had a real threat at tight end. In what ways might he change things and how you plan to defend?
Well, I mean, he's a very good run blocker. They run a lot of power and different things with him in there, and he blocks. But then you can flex him out like a wide out, and you see him on those jailbreak pumps and verticals and routes and different things he does. I mean, he can block and catch, and you have to be aware of him. And along when you got them those wide outs, and they're throwing it so fast, and then the quarterback can run, and they're running the football. I mean, it makes it tough, and it's another weapon for them. And he's a very good player, very good, very athletic.
Thank you, Jimbo. And secondly, length of college football games growing longer the past few years. Would you be a proponent of a rule change, say keeping the clock running after first downs, or shortening halftime to 15 minutes?
I don't know. We're shortening halftime now, and I don't know if I want to get into that, because we're changing rules to shorten things, and you change the game and how it's played. I think those take deep thought and reason for doing it, and not just because we're in a hurry. And that's the problem with our world today. We're in such a hurry
instant gratification. We want kids want it. We all want it. We need to make sure we do things the right way. So I would have to think through that much more and what rule changes you'd be talking about.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And we have a question from David Schneidman with the Daily Orange at Syracuse University. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. A couple questions on Ricky Aguayo. When you were first recruiting Ricky, was it a foregone conclusion he was going to come to Florida State because of his brother? And overall, what was the process like getting him there?
No, it was definitely not a foregone conclusion. I mean, we knew we liked him and we had liked him early, but, you know, it was a process in which we had to recruit him, and it was not a foregone conclusion, and it was a very tough process, but, you know, he has a tremendous mom and dad and family, and we're very blessed to get him.
And what do you believe his ceiling is? Can he be an NFL kicker like his brother?
I definitely think he has the potential to do that. He keeps improving. I mean, the miss he had a couple weeks ago in the Syracuse game, he had hit 11 in a row, I think. It was 11. It was 11, I believe. It was 11 in a row he had hit, you know, and had an outstanding, you know, having a really good year. I mean, he happened to miss that kick, but in one early got blocked. But, I mean, other than that, he's kicked the ball well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coaches, Mike Finn in Greensboro. I know we have some people that still have questions. We apologize. We're out of time. Good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thank you, Mike.
We're now joined by Louisville head coach Bobby Petrino, whose Cardinals will have an open date this week and will next be in action on Saturday, November the 11th, when they will host Virginia at Papa John's Cardinal Stadium in Louisville. The kickoff time and network for that game will be announced shortly after the conclusion of this weekend's games. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Well, we're working hard in our bye week. We're excited to have it. It's a long time to go without a bye. Coming off a tough loss at Wake Forest, where our offense played well at times but wasn't consistent enough, and had the ball twice in the red zone and didn't score touchdowns, so that hurt us in the game. Defensively, we got a lot of work to do. We're working hard on technique, fundamentals, and scheme, and what we really want to do is finish strong and win these last 3 games.
Questions for Coach Petrino?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from David Ubben with The Athletic. Please proceed.
Bobby, how would you kind of grade or assess Lamar's play this year?
Lamar's played really well. You know, he's throwing the ball well. He's doing a lot of great things in the passing game, going through his progressions, taking care of the ball for the most part. He's done an unbelievable job running the football and executing the offense. You know, we just haven't been able to give him enough help in areas where we can stop teams and score enough points to win.
How do you think he's handled that this year, not really having the success and the wins-losses that you guys have had last season?
You know, he's a great young man. He comes to practice every day and works extremely hard. He is a great competitor, so obviously he doesn't like to lose games. And he works hard every day to get better, so you can't say enough about that.
Where do you think you've seen him improve the most from last year?
I mean, he's improved probably in all phases of the game, but his understanding of defenses, understanding what exactly we're trying to do offensively, his ability to get the ball out on time and accurate. He makes a lot of great throws each game.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next question is from David Hale with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Hey, Bobby. I guess maybe to follow up on that a little bit, typically, you know, I know the Heisman is supposed to be an individual award. Typically, it goes to the best individual on a good team, though. Where do you feel like Lamar's performance this year is relative to last year? And you know, do you think he deserves to be in that conversation for the Heisman, despite the fact that maybe as a team you guys aren't quite where you would like to be?
Yeah, I think he's playing really well, and you know, obviously is one of the best players in the country. We're not taking care of business as a team enough to really get him into that talk and what he's doing. But when you look at his numbers and what he's done individually, you know, he's certainly one of the best players in the country. Now, I don't see all the other players, and obviously know there's a lot of great players out there, but what Lamar does week in and week out really is amazing.
I know you guys talked in the off season about his future and what he might need to do to develop to get ready for the next level at whatever point that comes in his career. Have you seen the strides in that direction? And what has your advice been to him about whether coming back for another year is a good thing, or in terms of preparation for when he does get to the next level?
Yeah, as they're going into a season and during a season, you never talk about what you do after the season's over with. You just focus on what you can get done, how you can perform individually, how you can help the team win games, and just do as the best that you can each week in practice and each week in the game. He's certainly made huge strides in his knowledge of the game of football, in his ability to throw the ball accurately, throw it deep. Obviously, he's one of the greatest athletes there is as far as his ability to run and the speed that he plays with. But we don't talk anything about that. That's a time and a place for that is when the season's over with.
Gotcha. Thanks, Bobby. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Matthew Gutierrez with the Daily Orange. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach. Thank you for your time. Just in general, across the country, dynamic tight ends seem to be a little more rare. Tight ends who can both block and catch. How have you seen the role of tight end change nationwide, especially the past few seasons?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed in probably the last 10 years from the big physical online guys that can really block to guys that now play multiple positions, not only tight end, but play in the backfield as a fullback, play split out as a wide receiver. So you're always looking for that guy that can do multiple things. It's one of the toughest positions there is in football because you have to run block, you have to pass block, and you've got to run routes and catch the ball and run after the route. So, it's a very unique position, something that you have to work hard at in recruiting. We've always been fortunate to have some really good tight ends.
Sure, no doubt. And secondly, Coach, length of college games growing a little bit longer the past few years. Would you be a proponent of a rule change, so keeping the clock running after first downs, just to shorten games a bit?
No, not at all. I think that's why you see some of the great college games and the great comebacks and everything that there is in college football. I don't think that we need to try to shorten the game at all.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Ken Segura with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering, in regards to the early signing period in December, if it's your expectation that all of your commits will be signing.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken. It's new to all of us, new to everybody in the country, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Obviously, the best thing for us would be if we get them all signed when you can in December. I'm certain there'll probably be one or two or a number of guys that don't feel comfortable yet, and maybe haven't had the opportunity to visit yet. There's a lot of unknowns out there, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out.
Do you have a feel yet of this is going to be a good thing overall?
I think it's going to be a good thing for staffs that are intact and are going to stay intact, and right. I think it's going to be a shocking thing for some players that all of a sudden that there's a new staff in place, and right. I guess there's just so many unknowns. I really don't know.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Coach Petrino?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone.
Coach, thanks for being with us today. Good luck and enjoy the open date, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll be joined shortly by Coach Dino Babers of Syracuse right at 11:10. In the meantime, just a quick note, we have a change in order for later in the press conference. Duke's head coach David Cutcliffe will not be available at his normal time. He will be available right at the end of the teleconference at 1 o'clock, right after Coach Richt of Miami. Again, as David Cutcliffe will not be available at 12:30, but will be available at 1 p.m. following Coach Mark Cutcliffe. And having said that, we're right at 11:10. We can go ahead and go with Coach Fabers, whose Syracuse Orange will travel to Tallahassee for a Saturday game against Atlantic Division rival Florida State at Doak Campbell Stadium. The game will have a 12:20 p.m. kickoff, be televised nationally to the 120 markets of the ACC network, including WTSM-TV in Syracuse and WTLF-TV in Tallahassee.
I don't even know what to say.
Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go from there.
Well, we got obviously a big task in front of us. You got Florida State at their place. They're a fantastic football team. Coach Jimbo's one of the top coaches in the country, and to go to have an opportunity to play at their place, it's going to be a difficult task because they're a very, very talented football team. You know that obviously they're playing their freshman quarterback, but there's nothing wrong with their defense. They've got a championship defense, and you take 10 points away, and you're probably talking about a team with one loss to Alabama that's ranked in the top 4. So we know they're talented, and we know we got our hands full. I'll open it up for questions.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of Chris Carlson with the Syracuse Post-Standard. Please proceed.
Dino, in talking with Caton Samuels last night, he mentioned he feels the program has shifted from a culture where players were held accountable by coaches to where they hold each other accountable. I wonder if you thought that was kind of a fair description of what you're trying to create, and whether that was something you felt you needed to change when you came in.
You know, I think that one thing that you always want to do with your culture is you want to make sure that the young men are feel like they have a link or a responsibility to one another. Their peers is the strongest influence on the young men of 18 to 22 years of age, and I think for him to say something like that and for it to be true is truly exactly what you're looking for when you talk about a culture and getting young men to play for one another around them in a family, La Familia Ohana situation.
And I know a lot of it is probably baked into everything you do, so asking you how you do that would probably take hours. But are there 1 or 2 examples that you can kind of recall happening this year that might not have happened the previous year?
I'm not quite sure what you're asking for. The change in the culture, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, a couple, I guess, anecdotes where you saw that this season.
You know, I think the biggest, one of the places I saw it was last year in the game when we played Pittsburgh and we lost to Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh, and that was the last game of the year. And when I dismissed the coaches and dismissed the senior class and just spoke to the 2017 football team, so to speak, in 2016, and talked about the things that we did wrong as a coaching staff and as a family in 2016, that if we want to have success in 2017, we need to correct. And I think that the leaders of this football team, the seniors, along with juniors like Slayton, are the individuals that are leading this team, and I think they're exactly right that I think that the culture is changing.
Thanks, Dino.
Our next question is from the line of Matthew Gutierrez with the Daily Orange. Please proceed.
Good morning, Dino. Thank you for your time. Senior offensive lineman Jamar McGlosser's been a vet on an otherwise pretty young O-line. How have you seen him progress the past 2 years, and how does he fit in to the rest of the offense?
You know, Moo doesn't say much with his words, but he does say a lot with actions. You're talking about someone that was a basketball player in high school that wanted to, late in his high school career, wanted to become a football player, got an opportunity to come to Syracuse University, and has really continued to develop since then. I think he's made great strides in the weight room with our strength and development department, and then the things that he does on the football field. I think that he is one of the leaders on our football team, our elder statesman, so to speak, out of the offensive line, and somebody that we're going to need in the month of November if we're going to have the success that we're looking for.
Thank you, Dino. And secondly, on Eric Dungy, taking fewer risks on deep balls downfield, is that because teams are defending that ball little better? And how effective have you seen Eric on the deep ball this year?
You know, one thing that you're going to do if you're going to be the quarterback at Syracuse University is you're going to throw the deep ball, and you're going to throw the deep ball well. And I think that he has thrown that ball well, and he will continue to throw that football. We're going to take our shots vertically down the football field. We're going to touch every part of the football field. And if you're going to be a quarterback for us, you may have a curve and you may have a slider, but you're going to have to throw a fastball and a deep ball as well. So I like the way Eric throws deep ball, and I think he'll keep throwing them.
Thank you, Dino.
Our next question is from the line of Ken Segura with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering, I was wrestling about the early signing period in December and how teams are approaching it. I'm curious, is it your expectation all the kids that are committed to you or will be signing?
You know, some of that has to do, yeah, I think that all the guys that are going to commit it to us that are in good academic standing are going to be signing. You know, with the new rules, if you sign someone that does not qualify, you're not allowed to get that scholarship back. So I think it ties into the young men who are qualified at that time that are ready to go. I think they will sign. And for the young men that still need to do a little bit more work, you need to wait on them to make sure they get that work done so you don't penalize your family by signing someone and then not being able to replace the scholarship because they don't qualify.
All right. If someone said, you know, Coach, I want to take some more visits or something like that, how would you approach that?
That would be an individual case based off of that person and how many other people we would like to come to Syracuse University who's already made up their mind and they're not looking around trying to decide.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
And we have a question from the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good morning. I believe last week was the first time you had been held under 20 points this year. How much of that was Miami's defense, and how much of it are certain things you're looking to improve upon as you get ready for the Florida State defense?
Well, first of all, I think any time a football team wins a game, you should give them their due. So I think the Miami defense had a lot to do with that. When you think about 4 turnovers and the opportunities to score points, and those 4 turnovers happening very early in series or drive calls, I think that was had something to do with it as well. We've got to find a way to not turn the ball over like that if we want to score more in the 20s, and then we also need to find a way to not put our defense in those situations if we want to keep that part of the point total down as well.
Thank you.
And we have a question from the line of David Hale with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Hey, Dino. I know you have sort of addressed things in the past on this anyway, but we've seen some head coaching jobs already come available. Syracuse fans seem to be terrified that your name will get brought up in some of those as a potential replacement. Wondering how you professionally sort of handle the inevitable buzz that comes along with being a hot name in the coaching carousel, and how do you kind of assuage fans' fears, keep that stuff out of the locker room, and kind of just focus on the season as it goes along?
You know, the 2 things that I really try to live by is, one, I only talk about the job that I have. I only have one job. There's not 2 of me. I only have one job. So I'm only going to talk about the job at Syracuse and the job I'm trying to do for them. And then secondly, when it comes to contracts and stuff like that, I don't talk about that stuff during the season. So that's what I kind of try to live by, and that's how I answer the question.
Do you feel like that the way that this gets handled by individual coaches, programs, you know, the media, all of that stuff, how frustrating can it be as a coach to kind of deal with the fact that you don't really have a whole lot of control over where your name gets mentioned and what people have to say about what your future might be?
You know, again, I'll just answer it like this. The only thing that I'm concerned about is trying to find a way to score more points against Florida State and try to find a way for them to score less points against us.
Thanks, Dino.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Coach Babers?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of Ben Brown with the San Jose Mercury News. Please proceed.
Good idea. One of your former players, Jimmy Garoppolo, is getting a chance out here to be the starter in San Francisco. I'm just curious why he fit your system so well and how you think he'll do now that he's getting a shot.
Well, I think that Jimmy is an outstanding quarterback, and I think that not only is he one of the best quarterbacks I ever had, but after sitting 4 years behind Tom Brady and working with Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time, and being in that system, and everybody getting a sneak peek of what he could possibly do when Brady was underneath the suspension for Deflategate, I think that he's going to do fantastic out in San Francisco. I think that he's a good-looking guy, dark hair. I know it. I know his ancestry. He's going to tan up very well in that California sun, and I think that you're going to have two bookends. You're going to have Brady, one of the best-looking cats on the East Coast, doing a fantastic job, and you're going to have Garoppolo on the West Coast with his tan doing a fantastic job, waiting to see somebody in the middle states pop up to see if they're going to be able to balance this thing out. I think he's going to be outstanding.
From a skill set, I've heard you talk a lot about his accuracy and maybe his quick release. And where do those come from? Is that taught or is that innate with him?
Well, first of all, I think that his releases probably has something to do with him. Technically, I know he had a young quarterback coach by the name of Christensen. I would like to think that when he came to Eastern Illinois, Roy Whitkey was his first coach for his first 2 years, and then we got an opportunity to help him his last 2 years, and I'm sure that Belichick and the quarterback coach up there had something to do with it as well. Now, from his accuracy, the young man has always been accurate. I mean, I've told people 1,000 times, he's the most accurate quarterback I've ever seen. And if I'm not mistaken, San Francisco 49ers are in the West Coast offense, and their big deal is about fast release and accuracy. So in that offense, I think it's ideal for him, and I think he'll do a fantastic job.
Great. Thank you.
And we have a question from Ira Schaffel with WarChant.com. Please proceed.
Coach Babers, Auden Tate, FSU's big receiver, gets a lot of attention because of his height and what he can do in the red zone, but Jimbo Fisher said he's become a more complete receiver throughout the course of his career. What have you seen from Auden Tate, and what kind of challenges does he present?
You know, all kinds of challenges. I agree with Jimbo. I think he's more complete. He's more than just a jump ball guy in the red zone. He's a big target. When you get big wide receivers against smaller DBs, they can just shield their bodies and make plays. It's almost like a big brother playing ball with a little brother out on Thanksgiving. I mean, the big brother's having fun, the little brother's trying, but it doesn't really make a difference. That's what he looks like sometimes, like he's a man among boys, and I think he's a fantastic player.
Thank you very much.
Coach, this is Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thank you, Mike.
We will have a short break here until we're joined by Coach Paul Johnson right at 11:30. A reminder for our schedule later in the teleconference, Coach David Cutcliffe of Duke will not be available at 12:30. He will be available at 1 p.m., though. That's Coach Cutcliffe of Duke, not at 12:30, but at 1 p.m. We'll come back and be back right at 11:30 with Coach Johnson of Georgia Tech. one more quick note about Coach Cutcliffe will not be available later in the call at 12:30. He will be available right after Coach Richt at 1 p.m. And with that, we'll go ahead and go to Georgia Tech head coach Paul Johnson, whose Yellow Jackets will travel to Charlottesville, Virginia for a Saturday game against Coastal Division rival Virginia at Scott Stadium. The game will have a 3 p.m. kickoff and will be televised nationally by 15 different regional sports networks, including NBC Sports Washington and Virginia, Fox Sports South and Georgia. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
Well, good morning. Certainly disappointed in the outcome of the Clemson game. I think Clemson's an outstanding football team for sure, and we did not play particularly well So you put those two things together, and you end up losing by 2 touchdowns as we did. So looking forward to having a chance to playing again this week and seeing if we can't right some of the mistakes we made last week.
Questions for Coach Johnson?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from Mike Barber with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Morning, Coach. Virginia has defensively improved this year, but they're much better against the pass than the run. I'm curious, what do you see in their scheme or their personnel that has made that the case?
Well, I think they've got some really good players. Certainly Andrew Brown is a dynamic player up front. He's kind of a difference maker. You've got the Blanding kid at safety, Kaiser at linebacker. I mean, they've got several good individual players, and they play well as a team. I think they're well coached on defense. They know what they want to do, and they play hard and run the ball.
They've been playing without their outside linebacker, number 17, Cook, and then they've also been without a corner, Juan Thornhill. What is the difference from what you've seen with those guys in the lineup versus out of the lineup?
Well, I don't know that there's a big difference in the scheme or what they're doing. They're both good players. But I think at this time of year, everybody's playing without guys. You know, that's just part of it. When you get to, for us, this is, you know, game 8. When you get to there, we're probably down 2 or 3 guys. I'm sure everybody that plays is. So, you know, I expect those guys will be back this week. If they are, I don't think it's going to change the way they play. I mean, they're going to line up and play the same way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Our next question is from the line of Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Yes, Coach. I saw in your game notes that you are the least penalized team in, I'm not sure what's the country or the conference. Do you do anything special that enables you to be less penalized?
Oh, I don't know about special. I mean, I think that we try to be disciplined and try to be poised, and you know, we'll have officials during fall camp and practice pretty much every day. But I think some of it's probably the nature of what we do as well.
Okay. Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Ken Segura with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Paul, I was wondering, will it be your expectation in this early signing period that the kids that are committed will be signing?
Well, I think they're all individual, but yeah, most of them, I would think. If you're committed, then you would be signing. If you're not ready to sign, then you probably aren't committed. That'd be the way I look at it.
I know, like with kids taking visits other places, would you kind of approach it the same way, that if you're not signing, then we're going to go ahead and recruit that spot?
Well, I think as long as kids are looking, you have to be looking. That's usually the way it works. I mean, you'd be pretty stupid to sit and hold pat and let them visit 5 schools and not recruit somebody else, and then at the end they decide they're going somewhere else and you don't have anybody. So, you know, as long as we've got kids committed in the numbers, we don't bring kids in for those positions. But if they start visiting, then you have to visit kids too.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And we have a question from Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Yeah, Bronco Mendenhall has spoken about his passion for defending against option games. As you've gone against him over the years, has that been a particular challenge for you? Any different than what you see on a weekly basis?
I think he does a good job coaching. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. They played us very well defensively here a year ago. We hit them with some big plays. But all in all, defensively, they played really well. You know, I don't know about that. My passion's playing against 3-4 teams. I don't know. I mean, that's just it's something we're going to play the game. They beat us twice, I think, when he was at BYU, and we beat them last year. So, you know, I'm sure it'll be a tough, hard-fought game, and the kids on the field will decide who executes the best. We'll both have a plan. You'll have a plan, we'll have a plan. That's the way it works.
Any more questions for Coach Johnson?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. I have a question from Mike Barber with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Yeah, Paul, let me sneak in one more. I know you guys get breakdowns on pretty much everything. They've been very good, Virginia, defensively on third down. You guys obviously are the best in the conference converting on third down. In terms of their third down defense, do you notice a difference of success? Are most of those pass stops third and long, or have they been good in third and short situations?
Well, I think they've been probably good in all of it. We don't really break that down as far as to whether it's runs or passes on third down. It's a lot. We do it by distance. Down, I mean, more than what the thing is. But I think the key to being good on third down defense is you have to get people in third and longs, which means that they're creating some negative plays and lost yardage plays. And when they get people in third and long, I'm sure that with their nickel and what they're doing, they create a lot of problems.
Great, thank you.
And we have a question from Christopher Heidel with the Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Paul. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. How good is this a different Virginia squad than you played them last year? Are they improving this year than last year?
I think so. I think they're certainly better. They came out of the gate and really strong, and they kind of hit a buzzsaw against BC, but BC's been playing well. And then last week at Pitt, that game kind of got out of hand with the punt return. I think it kind of changed the game. But, I mean, I think they're better. They're experienced. It's a lot of the same kids, same guys, and it's year two in Bronco's system. And, they're much better than they were a year ago.
Thanks, Paul. Good luck this week.
Okay.
Coaches Mike Finn in Greensboro, thanks for being with us. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Okay, thanks.
We'll be joined by Coach Fedora from North Carolina momentarily. Okay, we're back, and we're now joined by North Carolina head coach Larry Fedora. The Tar Heels have an open date this week and will next be in action on Thursday, November the 9th, when they travel to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for a Thursday night game against the Pitt Panthers at Heinz Field. The game will have a 7:30 p.m. kickoff, will be nationally televised by ESPN. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and then we'll go to questions.
Yeah, we're using this open week to work fundamentals in all three phases of the game, and then trying to get some, hopefully get a few guys healed up.
Questions for Coach Fedora?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Okay, our first question is from Bill Haas of Greensboro. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Larry, you've played 9 straight weeks of football. Just, I know from a physical standpoint, it's great to have a week off. Just, does it help players mentally, after that kind of a grind without a break?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you got 9 weeks of the season, plus you have your 4 weeks of camp. So you're 13 weeks into it, and these guys need a break. They needed a break mentally. They definitely needed a break physically. So we're trying to. We've never had a open week this late, so we've had to address it a little bit differently.
Nathan Elliott came in, played pretty well for you. What do you like about him, his strengths and weaknesses, and has he injected himself into the quarterback mix now?
Well, what I like about Nathan is he's a gutsy kid. He knows the offense. He doesn't require a lot of reps to be able to know it. There was no doubt in my mind that on limited reps he would go in and know what to do and would be able to execute it. He's a headsy kid. He's grown up a gym rat. I mean, he's been around football his whole life. His dad's a high school head coach back in the state of Texas, and so he has interjected himself. Yes, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he's been involved every week, and so. But this was the first opportunity he got to really get out there and get some extensive time, and he did some good things. And if he can eliminate the turnovers, he'd have it'd be a really good game for him.
So as you practice during this open week towards the next game, is there a pecking order at quarterback now, or is it kind of up for grabs? Or
no, not right now. It's been up for grabs. It still is. I mean, it's going to be about who shows that they give us the best opportunity to win, and as we get into the week of our Pitt preparation.
Thank you.
You bet.
Our next question is from Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Larry, I know this has been a difficult season for you and the players. Is there anything that you can take away about what you all have gone through that can help them in the next few weeks and also moving forward into next season as they go through off-season workouts?
Most definitely, Andrea. We're one thing about the group, they're very resilient. They've stayed close together, and that's not easy to do. I mean, on the outside, it's nothing. They don't hear anything but negative things and what's wrong and what they need to do differently. And one thing that they've done a great job of, and the staff and the seniors have done a really good job of making sure this happens, is that they've stayed together. And they continue to have a great attitude and work hard. And I tell them daily that you keep doing that, and we eliminate the mistakes, and good things are going to happen. And the things that you're going to get out of this the most are how we have handled everything mentally as a team. The second thing is we've got a lot of young guys that are getting reps, and every rep that they get, every game rep that they get is valuable to their development, and they're just going to be better in the long run because of it.
Why do you think this team has stayed together?
I think it's. I mean, we one thing in the off season and the summer and the winter. I mean, the whole thing is about how we handle adversity and overcoming adversity. And we've been hit with a lot of adversity this year, and I think our guys have prepped for it. I mean, they understand that there's only two ways you can go, and you choose, and they've chosen to stay together and be positive.
Thanks, Larry.
You bet.
Our next question is from Ken Segura with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I have a question for you about the early signing period in December, and I was curious if just kind of how you were going to approach your committed players that are I imagine you're expecting to sign in December.
How we're going to approach them?
Yeah, like will your expectation look at it that they?
We're just looking at it as the December 20th as being signing day. I mean, and so. All the guys that want to sign on the 20th, we're going to sign them. I mean, we haven't looked at it really any differently. So the guys that are committed have the opportunity to sign, whether they're an early enrollee or a late enrollee. The things that the interesting part is if you're a guy that's going to enter school, at the normal time, you may have already signed before you take an official visit. So there's some logistics there, in that way.
Right. So if someone's committed but wants to wait, how would you approach that?
The same. I mean, the way we would approach it is we would have to discover, why is it that they're wanting to wait, and then we just have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thanks.
You bet.
And we have a question from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Larry. How you doing?
Good.
Just talk about your team last week against Miami. What did you like about your squad? Because they played really tough against a very good Miami squad.
Yeah, they played extremely hard and fought all the way to the end, and we had a bunch of young kids out there that I think are coming along, and they're realizing that they're not that far away from being a good football team. But we're still making too many mistakes that we can't overcome because the margin of error is much smaller and very small for this football team, and we can't continue to make those mistakes. But there were a lot of really good things. I was proud of the way they played. Their effort was unbelievable. Their attitudes were really good, and they worked extremely hard.
And I know this has been a tough season for you with injuries and all that stuff. Have you ever had a season like this before? And what do you learn from if you had one before this, what did you learn from it?
Oh, I've never had one like this. So every day is a learning experience, and every day we're working hard to overcome the problems that we have, and eventually we believe that if you have a great attitude and you practice with a lot of energy and you don't make mistakes, then good things are going to happen to us.
Well, I hope you have a good bye week.
Thank you.
Coaches, Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us today. I hope you have a chance to enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Yeah, Mike, I'm curious, what did you dress up as last night?
You don't want to know, Coach.
All right. Well, all right. You have a good one.
Take care. We're now joined by Virginia Tech head coach Justin Fuente, whose Hokies ranked 13th nationally in last night's college football playoff rankings, and also by AP and the Amway Coaches Poll. Will travel to Miami Gardens, Florida, for a Saturday game against Coastal Division rival Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. The game will have an 8 p.m. kickoff, will be nationally televised by ABC. Miami is ranked 9th nationally in the AP poll, 6th by the Amway Coaches Poll, and 10th in the college football playoff. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Sure, we were happy to get the win last week in some adverse weather conditions. Looking forward to the game this week. Another challenge, another Coastal Division team on the road against a very talented, well-coached Miami team.
Questions for Coach Fuente?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone.
Let's go ahead and go to Paul Woody.
Hey, good morning, Coach. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Did you have a lot of trick-or-treaters last night? That's not my question, but I'm just curious.
I do not know the answer to that. I was at the office.
Okay. No one came by the office asking for candy?
No, none here. Nobody came by the office.
Okay. Well, my question is, you and Coach Rick took over programs at the same time, and programs that had been prominent and were less than prominent, and now you've got both are back where they once were, or you hope they were anyway. So what have you seen that he did in Miami to get the Hurricanes back to being what the Hurricanes were known for?
Well, Paul, the only thing I would say, just as a caveat to that question, is I'm not real well versed in Miami before he got there. So I can tell you what I have seen from them in my short time here at Virginia Tech, preparing for us to play them a second time, and that's a well-coached, talented football team. I mean, they obviously have a huge emphasis on creating turnovers defensively and lead the ACC in turnover margin. They have great athletes in the skill positions offensively. They love to push the ball down the field and still run the football. So what I've seen from them is there's a reason they're undefeated. There's a reason they have this winning streak dating back to last year. It's because they're a very well coached and very talented football team.
How does that compare to what you felt like needed to be done when you got to Virginia Tech?
Well, I mean, I didn't come into Virginia Tech with any preconceived notion of what we were or weren't. I just knew the way that I wanted to do things. So, I don't know, like I didn't really research the way that things had gone all that much in the past. I knew we had a tradition and a level of competition that we needed to live up to. But, you know, I didn't specify things that I thought weren't being done that I thought now needed to be done. I just had the plan of what I wanted it to look like, and that's the direction we went.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
We have a question from Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Justin, where has Josh Jackson made the biggest strides this year?
Well, I just, you know, first of all, he's done a great job, knock on wood, of taking care of the football. I mean, he's really been judicious with his decision-making. I think he's playing at a little faster tempo than maybe he did to start the season in terms of some anticipation and those sorts of things. You know, I know that he's earned the respect of his teammates. You know, we have a very old and veteran defensive unit and a redshirt freshman quarterback, and it's really been fun for me to see that defensive unit grow to appreciate and respect Josh. I think he's earned some respect from them through his toughness and work ethic, and obviously he's made some plays to help us win games. And, you know, the last thing I would say is he's done a great job with the younger players. Often I forget that he is a redshirt freshman as well. But a couple of weeks ago at Boston College, we played 6 true freshmen on the offensive side of the ball alone. And Josh has done a great job with those guys, kind of living with some of the things that come with that many young players, and also helping them and encouraging them to continue to get better.
How much, in that regard, how much has he helped along the development of, say, a Sean Savoy, who's now emerged for you in the past game?
Well, I think the biggest thing is Sean now has somebody that he respects when they speak. And I don't mean that they didn't respect Josh. I just mean Josh has earned that right now. He's earned that moniker. And Josh's words now carry more weight than they did a couple months ago. And I think that's always good for particularly young skill players to have someone in the huddle or running the offense that's words have weight behind them.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
We have a question from Bill Haas of Greensboro.
Yeah, Justin, statistically, your defense and their defense, two of the top three in the league. Given those circumstances, do you go into this thinking that this is likely to be a fairly low-scoring game with defenses dominating, or do you approach games, like that?
Well, I just in general terms, I think it's going to be like that every week for us. Just where we're at in terms of how well we've played on defense and special teams, and how young and inexperienced we are offensively. I mean, that's kind of my mindset going into every game. I do not believe. I know a couple weeks ago we had a game that they got out of hand, but I think that's going to be the exception rather than the norm. I think in general this entire league is maybe better on defense than it was a year ago, and maybe not as good on offense as it was a year ago. And I think there are going to be a lot of games that are relatively low scoring, that are one possession football games that are really well played.
They've won 4 consecutive games by single digits. The ability to win close games like that, what does that tell you about an opponent?
Well, they've certainly been through the fire and found a way to make the plays at the end of the game to win the game, whether it's on offense or on defense. And we have tremendous respect for that ability. We feel like that we have done a good job in those close games as well. That last year we won several games that were 3-point victories, and we feel like we have that same ability as Miami.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we have a question from Christopher Heidel with Herb FM Sports Radio. Please proceed.
Hi, Coach Justin. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. Just talk about last week when you played against Duke and the rain in the second half. Would that help you guys going down to Miami? Because I know sometimes a thunderstorm might pop up during the game, and that driving rainstorm a couple weeks ago against Georgia Tech might affect the game. Did you guys really appreciate the rain last week to help you guys ready for that?
Yeah, we loved it. It was awesome. It absolutely poured in the second half, and I was really proud of our team and our mindset in terms of I really felt like the worse the weather got, the more we embraced it. I think we've been like that in a couple games, whether it's cold and windy or pouring down rain. I don't know how that affects us moving to Miami. I know that there's always a chance of rain playing at Miami, but I don't know. Having taken care of the football and played in a wet weather game, I'm sure that's something we can draw on in the future, but I don't know if it's got any direct effect on this week's game.
And I talked about Travis Homer. He took over for Walton, who is out for the season with an injury. What type of running back is he, and what do you guys have to do to stop him?
He's a fantastic football player. I mean, you watch him on special teams and the plays he makes on special teams. He runs with power and speed. He's just a all-around, really, really good football player that can both catch the ball, and like I said, he makes just as many plays on special teams. He's a great example to guys on our team about a guy that's starting at tailback and still making plays on special teams.
Well, I hope you have safe travels to Miami.
Thank you.
Coach, it's Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
You bet. Thanks.
Now welcome Wake Forest head coach Dave Clausen, whose Demon Deacons will travel to South Bend, Indiana for Saturday game against Notre Dame at Notre Dame Stadium. The Irish are ranked third in this week's first college football playoff rankings, fifth by the Associated Press, eighth in the Amway Coaches Poll. The game will have a 3:30 p.m. kickoff. Will be televised nationally by NBC. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
Yeah, we had a really good win for our program last Saturday against Louisville, and not a lot of time to enjoy it. You turn the page, and now you're playing one of the very best football teams in the entire country. Notre Dame is 7-1. They're ranked third in the college football playoff standings. They've lost one game to Georgia. And in their other 7 games that they won, their average margin of victory is 28 points, and the closest game was a 20-point win over Michigan State. They're really offensively, they're a complete offense. They average 40 points, 470 yards, almost 320 a game on the ground. And defensively, they're extremely well coached. They don't let you run the ball, and they create turnovers. So this will be a just another. This is just another week on our schedule that it just seems, it's good team after good team after good team, and we embrace that challenge, and we're looking forward to the trip to South Bend.
Questions for Coach Clausen?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from David Ubben with The Athletic. Please proceed.
Dave, what was how would you compare the Lamar Jackson that you guys saw last year, the one that you saw this year?
He gets better every year. He can make every throw. He recognizes coverage quickly. I think he's even become more accurate. And his athleticism and his ability to escape the pocket and make people miss is, I don't even know who to compare him to. It's such a unique skill set. He's one of those guys that for the whole entire 60 minutes of the game, your heart is in your throat every time he has the ball in his hands, because at any point he can make an 80-yard play. And he's a tremendous player and a great competitor, and we never, ever felt safe in that game because of him.
Defensively, what is him this year? Where does he or what does he do to defenses that sort of stresses them a little bit more this time around?
I don't know if it's more. It's just they're so hard to defend because they have this zone read, power read scheme that they can create extra gaps with their tight ends, and you got to be gap sound, but at the same point, there's times that he can just outrun your defense. So you can have a hat for him and someone assigned to him that he just makes a miss. And then when you defend that stuff, a lot of times it makes you a little susceptible in the secondary against a quarterback who can make every throw and receivers who can get open. They're a really, really tough out on their offense.
Thanks, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. What are the keys with your run defense to trying to contain Notre Dame this week?
I think ultimately you have to stay in your gaps. You have to fit runs correctly. You have to tackle well. And that's your challenge every week. It's not every week, though, that you face the caliber of an offensive line that Notre Dame is, or the caliber of a back that Adams is. Every week, no matter who you play, that you got to be gap sound, and your backers got to be able to fit different runs and different backfield sets and different motions, and you got to tackle. But the better the team you play is, obviously those assignments become more difficult. And that's where Notre Dame is exceptional. That they have a running back with close to 1,200 yards. It averages almost 9 yards a carry, and this is certainly, if not certainly up there as the most physical offensive line that we've played in our 4 years here. They've got a number of exceptional players on their offensive line, and it's a very well coached, physical, technique sound. They're really, really good up front.
Do you think your run defense? You think your run defense has improved from September to October?
I mean, I think certainly players have improved, and every week is different challenges. Last week we fit the runs very well, and we kind of made it a throw game, and we didn't hold up as well against the pass as I'd like, but we did hold up in the base run game pretty well. At Georgia Tech, we struggled at times, but I think we're a work in progress. But we've certainly at times played stuff very well, and at times we've misfit stuff.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Dave, I know there's some tough injuries that you guys are going through on offense. Who are some guys that you're hoping maybe could step up and play bigger roles this week?
Well, at receiver, I mean, we're fortunate. Tabari Hines is a good player. Tabari Hines has started, for over 2 years here. He's made a lot of plays for us. I certainly feel bad for Greg, and I, feel bad for our program. Greg was having a great year, but Tabari Hines is a good player, and he'll step up, I have no doubt. And Scotty Washington probably had his best game of the career the other day, and Chuck Wade can make plays, and Cam Serenay, we got him more involved, and with Cade Carney down, Matt Colburn will get a lot more opportunity, and he did a great job for us on Saturday as well. So it's part of football. It happens. We've actually this year up until now been very fortunate with that, and it hits everybody, and it hit us late, but it hit us severely. But I think right now we have recruited and have established much better depth this year, that we're better prepared to handle that this year than we've ever been before.
How difficult will it be for you to look across the other sideline and see Coach Elko there after what you guys were able to do while he was at Wake Forest?
Well, it's not just at Wake Forest. I mean, I hired Mike at Fordham when he was 23 years old, and he was with me at every stop, Fordham, Richmond, Bowling Green, and Wake Forest. And Mike is he's a great coach. He's a good person. We're still very good friends. We won't talk this week, but I have great respect for Mike, and we're both professionals. So I think it's this week we want to beat Notre Dame, and Notre Dame wants to beat Wake Forest. And when it's over, I'm sure we'll have a good talk, but it's mixed emotions. Mike did a great job here and everywhere he's been for me, and but on the other hand, I'm really proud of the job he's doing there, and he's had a huge impact on their program, and just not even a full year. And so again, proud of him, but I'm hoping this week that they maybe have a bunch of breakdowns and they don't look as good.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a question from Bill Haas of Greensboro.
Dave, you played this year at Clemson, which is certainly one of the toughest venues in the country. Now you go to another iconic place, Notre Dame. How do you get players to tune out their surroundings when they're on the road like that, especially at places like Clemson and Notre Dame, and can they always be successful in doing that?
Well, I think it's better with older teams that we're starting to become. We don't have a lot of seniors, but we have a lot of redshirt juniors and redshirt sophomores. And in this conference, in this league, you play in a lot of great environments. Clemson is very loud. Florida State, NC State has a great following. The Georgia Tech environment was great. In Notre Dame, most of our players have played there before. We played there in 2015. So it's playing football in the ACC. And, that's part of the challenge and part of the reward and the attraction of coming to Wake Forest and the ACC is you get to play in these environments. So, our players are looking forward to it. Certainly Notre Dame is one of the most historic venues in all of college football. and the history and tradition there is one of the greatest in the country. But for our players, it's about us. It's about what we want to accomplish this year and what we need to get done on the football field and how we need to execute. And you certainly recognize where you're going and who you're playing, but when it comes down to it, it's once the ball's kicked off, it's playing football, and we've got to be locked into our assignments and the situation and situational football and to know what we're doing and, in order to execute well, to have a chance to win.
They certainly went through an uncharacteristic season last year. I think 4-8. What has enabled them to turn things, swing things around 180 degrees like that?
Well, they hired 2 guys from Wake Forest, so I think that's what happened.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
No, they're playing good football. They're creating turnovers. They're making plays on offense. They're a physical O-line. They've got good players, good schemes, good coaches. They're a good football team.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coach, it's Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
We're now joined by Pittsburgh head coach Pat Narduzzi, whose Panthers will have an open date this weekend. Will next be in action Thursday, November the 9th, when they host Coastal Division rival North Carolina at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. That game will be nationally televised on ESPN as part of their Thursday night package, and will have an 8 p.m. kickoff. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and then we'll go to questions.
Okay, brief opening statement. Obviously, we play a North Carolina team I see is similar to us, that's had a few injuries and also coming off a pretty good year a year ago that lost a lot of seniors, Trubisky and to name one of them, the little number 3 that freaking would kick everybody's tail that's playing with the Cowboys. I see him on Sundays now, watch him on highlights. So they're a young football team like we are, and a talented football team at that. But a team that's still learning to play together as a unit, and they're very well coached, as you can see on tape. So we'll have our work cut out for us next Thursday when we play them.
Questions for Coach Narduzzi?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. We have a question from Chris Peak with Panderlair. Please proceed.
Pat, when you look back at the Virginia game, specifically defensive line and cornerback, did you feel like that was a game where you really kind of showed some of the depth that you're developing through what you've recruited over the last couple of years and kind of the team you put together?
A little bit, Chris. When you look at Felipe Motley coming in and taking over for Avante Maddox, and then Pinnock being able to go in there, and Damari Mathis, 2 true freshmen that have come in, and Damari's got a nice play where I think if he lays out, he gets an interception in the end zone. And Theron Coleman, who didn't play in that game, a little bit banged up at this point, but hopefully be back the next week. But some of the potential he's shown, you move a guy like DeMar Hamlin, who's playing really good football for us, to the field. So some of that's starting to take place there, and also on the defensive line with Rashad Weaver, who's really played good football. We didn't have Dwayne Hendricks, an older guy but a younger guy, a more mature guy, but older. Maybe that's about the only thing. But with him out there playing, and Jay Folston, who's really starting to come on strong, I think. I mean, he's playing some of the best football. The young guys are growing up a little bit, and I think it's a tribute to, again, obviously the coaches, but the persistence out of the players.
And then just curious about the bye week. I'm guessing you might have liked to have had it earlier than waiting 9 weeks into the season, but is this a good time to have it now, and you can kind of rest up and get ready for the final sort of 3 games?
No doubt about it. This is kind of like the fourth quarter of the season. The last 3 games, if you split, the 12-game season into 3 games a pop. So we're headed into the fourth quarter, headed into November, and really, to be honest with you, I'd like to. Some people have them first, second, third, fourth weeks. This is when you really need an open week. I don't know if you could pick a perfect time, right before the fourth quarter of the season to get a little freshened up as a football team. I think our guys feel good being in the weight room. We're going to have a killer practice tomorrow and get after it, and then get to work on Sunday and prep for North Carolina.
All right. Thanks, Pat.
You got it, Chris.
Our next question is from Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Pat, you had just said that you feel like North Carolina's season maybe a little bit like yours in terms of having to overcome some adversity with your team and not have the type of success you've had over the last couple. And I asked Larry this, what are some things that you can learn about your team when there are struggles? And I'll ask you the same question. What have you learned and what can maybe carry forward as you play out the rest of the season?
Well, I think the thing you learn, Andrea, is resilience, and how are guys going to continue to compete, and we've coached the heck out of it about not quitting, not giving up, and really competing. And we compete every day in practice, going good on good, 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes 4 times a day, where we're just it's competing. And I think you learn what type of kid you have, what kind of character you have. Our guys have not given up one point during the season. And that's the hardest thing. It's easy to coach when you're 7-0 and getting ready for Tuesday practice. The kids are into it. It's when you're not doing so well that, to me, really tells you what kind of football staff you have and what kind of kids you have. And I think we're seeing that our kids believe in what we're doing, and we're not lying to them on what they see on tape. I think those Sunday meetings after a loss are so critical to coach them up on what they're seeing and what we could have done better, and how easy it would have been to correct if we do the right thing. And that's something we talk about pounding the rock all the time. The stone cutter. The rock doesn't break as soon as you swing once. You got to continue to strike it, and you don't know what blow it's going to take to make that rock break and implode. So that's what we've continued to talk about, is just keep working at it.
How much do you think that message has helped the last couple weeks when you have had success?
I think it's helped a lot. The kids see that, hey, we do this and that a little bit better, and you have a chance to win. And it's not that we were doing bad things early in the year, because I think we got beat by some pretty good teams. As you look at the top 25, I mean, we've played some pretty good teams, and we have the number 13, and number 10 team in a couple weeks as well. So we're going to play a couple more really, really good ones that are going to be a challenge for us to finish off this season.
Thanks, Pat.
Our next question is from the line of Brian Batko with Pittsburgh Host. Please proceed.
Hey, Pat, did you miss us Monday?
No. Next question. That was your only question?
No. Well, you talked about pounding the rock all the time, and that's sort of what you tell the guys. What's the story behind the team sledgehammer?
I think it's a team. It's a team. Well, you called it a team sledgehammer. It's a team sledgehammer, and I think some things are sacred, and we'll just kind of keep that to our group and keep it in the team. But I kind of mentioned a little bit when Andrew asked the question just about continue to pound. I think it's easy for these young kids to give up, and maybe their iPhone's not working right, so instead of trying to fix the iPhone, they go get a new one. There's no getting new ones. We need to continue to work at our trade, get better, and again, pound the rock. And you do that with a hammer, a sledgehammer. You can do that with your fist if you want to. But our kind of motto has been to just keep being persistent in what you want, and good things will happen. And that's really what's happened the last couple of weeks.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Brett.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone.
Yeah, Pat, this is Bill Hass in Greensboro. Cadre Henderson was able to break a punt return for a touchdown, puts him one short of tying the national record for a career on combined either punt and kickoff returns.
Right.
Had you found that, I don't know how many opportunities he's had this year, but it would seem like people would just kick the ball away from him and not even give him a chance.
Right. People have kicked it to him, that's for sure. Northwestern, we prepared too much for nothing, but we prepared coming to the season of people kicking it different places. We have a different kick return in case that starts to happen. We prepare for it every week, thinking people are going to kick it to somebody other than Quadri Henderson back there. But they've kicked it to him. I think people have trust in the coverage. Maybe they don't think he's worth a darn, I guess. Maybe that's why. And people have had success against him and us. And then when I say him and us, it's 10 other guys that are blocking for him that got to execute as well. It's not just you can have whoever you want back there, the best punt returner, kick returner in the country. But if you don't give him any blocking, he's going to look pretty bad. So I think it's a unit thing, and it kind of goes to the youth. We wish we'd have more returns for touchdowns on both sides, and we got 3 more games to see if we can get that record tied. And he's got an entire another year after this to beat that record, and we'll find out by how many.
What are the ingredients that go into making a guy so good at that skill?
Yeah, I mean, he's got just a knack. Obviously, he's got a knack to make people miss. He's got a great vision when he's got that much room and space. I mean, I think it's different when you catch a ball for a 10-yard and people are converging on you from different angles. But he's just got a great vision, and I think we got a good scheme as well. I think, you have to take apart the scheme we have and what we try to do and how we do it, and maybe the simplicity of what we do that helps our guys block well for him.
Thank you.
You got it, Bill.
We have a question from Jerry DiPaolo with Pittsburgh Review newspaper. Please proceed.
Yeah, Pat, I was just wondering, I'm not going to ask you specifically about Vontae's injury because I know better, but tell me what he's been like as far as, I see him on the sideline during the game and last Saturday pumping guys up. He's been almost like a coach as a player?
No doubt about it, and that's what good leaders do, is they continue to lead just like Max has done in his time off. He's an emotional guy that, just for example, last week during practice, he says, Coach, I'm getting therapy and all that. He texts me. He says, Coach, I'm getting therapy, but the guys need me out there. I got to be out there. As soon as I'm done with my therapy, can I come out? Because I said, keep him in there and get him healthy. Doesn't help him stand around the field. He's not doing anything for anybody. But he said, Coach, can I come out? Because I told him to stay in. So he's one of those guys that, he'll grab that sledgehammer and be banging the door down trying to get out so he can go out and affect somebody else, because it's not all about him, which he realizes. It's about the team, and that's what you got to love about him. That's why he's a leader. He's a team guy that wants to do whatever he can do to help this football team win, and he did that Saturday, by charging up the team on the sideline, both offensively and defensively. I'd tell him during the game, say, hey, go down and get Dane. Make sure he does this or that, and he goes marching down there to do it. So he's beautiful.
Thanks, Pat. I'm assuming you thought season-ending since you haven't mentioned it, right?
You got it.
Thank you.
You got it.
Coaches Mike Finn in Greensboro, thanks for being with us. We hope you have a chance to enjoy part of the open date as you've got an early game next week, and we look forward to talking to you next Wednesday.
Thanks, Mike. We will enjoy it.
We now welcome Boston College head coach Steve Addazio, whose Eagles will have an open date this weekend. Will next be in action on Saturday, November the 11th, when they host Atlantic Division rival and 20th ranked NC State at Alumni Stadium in Chestnut Hill. The kickoff and time and TV network for that game will be announced after the games of this Saturday. Coach, just a brief opening statement. We'll go to questions.
Yeah, Mike, we're certainly excited to come off a big win and have a bye week. We played 9 games in a row, and our team needs an opportunity to focus on academics and to get our team a little bit more healthy and rested. So I think it came at the right time, and we're looking forward to that. Obviously, we're a week away, but we open back up at home against NC State, who's one heck of a football team. So we have a huge challenge ahead of us. So we're going to use the bye week to handle the academic end, the rest end, but we're also going to get a jump start, hit some real fundamentals, and get a real jump start on our game planning for NC State. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. Our first question is from David Ubben with The Athletic. Please proceed.
Steve, how would you compare the Lamar Jackson that you guys faced last year to the one that you faced this year?
Oh, I mean, he's every bit the same guy. I mean, he's in our game. He was single-handedly, bringing his team back to win that game. I mean, it was like, I felt like at times it was, our whole team rallying to try to counterbalance Lamar Jackson. The guy is a sensational athlete. He throws it really well. He runs it really well, and I think their coaching staff does a phenomenal job of putting him in position to let his talents dominate a game.
Thanks, appreciate it. We have a question from Leo Haggerty with It's Sports Magazine. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Coach, in the interest of fairness, should the ACC schedule makers make sure that the teams that play on a Thursday or Friday night both have a bye week before that game so it's an even playing field?
I got so much to worry about. I would say that I think it's very, very difficult especially if you travel away, fly back, and have to turn around in a very short week and play a game. I think that's less than ideal, but I also know that everybody's got the best interest of everything at hand. It's not just one piece to that question. There's a lot that goes into that stuff, and we're all trying to, promote and play our game at a high level and try to take care of everybody. And sometimes it's hard for it to be just perfect. But in a perfect world, you'd like not to be on a short week like that. But I don't know that that's avoidable, and I don't wrestle with all the problems that surround that. So it's hard for me to, sit here and be critical of something when I don't know all the constraints. But in a perfect world, you'd like to not be on a real short week because it's hard enough.
Coach, last question, and thank you for your time today. When you talk about recruiting, I know every win is a big win, but when you put the Florida State win up there, how much is that going to help you recruiting?
I think winning helps you recruit. I think direction of your program helps you recruit. Marquee wins help you recruit. So I think they all are big factors. I think the most significant factor is confidence within our team, and I think the ability for people to see the future and the direction of where we are, our players, and that's exciting. And I think that excitement brings energy, and those two things together give you a great recipe to recruit well.
Thank you, Coach. Enjoy the bye week.
Thanks.
Our next question is from Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Steve, after you guys lost to Virginia Tech, you said it would come together and it would be beautiful, and now you've reeled off these 3 straight wins with point totals that haven't been seen at Boston College in many years. Mm-hmm. How have you been able to do that? How were you so confident that when it did come together, it would look as beautiful as it has the last 3 weeks?
Andrea, our players, our coaches, we watched the film, we saw it. I use this all the time. The Virginia Tech game, for example. We open up with the first drive, we go right down the field, we throw a pass, touchdown ball, we drop the ball in the end zone. And then on the next drive, or the one after that, we drop the ball on the one. But you could see that it was right there. It's been that way throughout the season, and we've played an unbelievably tough schedule against some really elite teams. And all the while, there's been great opportunity for us on both sides of the ball and special teams to make some really good plays. And the players see that on tape. That coupled with the fact that, we like on offense, at the apex of the offense, the center, the quarterback, the tailback, we have these really talented young players, and they're just getting better and more confident each week. And so you put all that together, and we just knew that, hey guys, we just gotta believe in each other, stick together, and good things are going to happen, and felt real strong about that. And we were really locked together as a program. Our players there's a real love here amongst our players and our coaches, and a real respect, and I think we all really rallied and had each other's back, and just had a real firm faith and belief that we're going to stay steady in the boat. We're down like 6-7 starters here, but we're going to stay steady in the boat. We've got good talent, and this thing's going to come together, and we're going to start bearing fruit. And as we started bearing fruit, that bred more confidence. And I think it became undeniable about the future of of our program. I mean, people can see it. It's not like me trying to sell it or talk about it. It's right there. Now, are we done with our roller coaster rides? I don't know that. We're still got young players at those positions, but I know what the future is, and it's a clear vision now. And we're going to have an outstanding football team, and we just got to go about, hey, let's have the best Wednesday today and the best Thursday today, and not get locked into all the nonsense. Let's just keep pounding away, and really good things will continue to happen.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew.
And we have a question from Bill Haas of Greensboro.
Steve, you had a couple of defensive ends that were very highly regarded coming into the season, and you've developed a third guy, Wyatt Ray, who's really stepped in and bolstered that position. Can you talk about him a little bit and how his progress has been?
I mean, Wyatt is just really, we were sky high on Wyatt in the beginning of the year, kind of like Zach Allen last year. And Wyatt's now emerged on. Harold's been hurt here for the last 2 weeks. Wyatt stepped up, and Wyatt's a real athletic guy, a very, very explosive guy. And he's playing at a high level. I think our D-line as a whole is playing really well. Paul Pasqualoni coaches the D-line, and I've never seen a group that, I mean, what he's done with that group fundamentally, our ability to get to the quarterback with a four-man rush, our ability to be able to play zone coverage and stop the run, with the front seven and not add an eighth, our ability to do those things has been phenomenal. And Wyatt is another example of the development of that position, and couldn't be more excited about him.
You've also gotten a lot of help from a freshman receiver, Kobe White.
Right.
How has he come along, and how has that really been an asset to your passing game?
I mean, he's just a dynamic guy who has got tremendous balance and explosiveness in hands. And, I think as Anthony has gotten more confident and actually now gotten healthier again, and these guys are really growing together, I think we have a lot of different components on offense. You can't just say they're just going to run the ball and stop, Hillman and Dillon, or you can't just say, I mean, we can throw it, we can run it. Our tight ends are really, really viable targets, our receivers. So we've got a lot more balance, and Kobe is one of those receivers that's brought that to the program this year.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Coach Adazia?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4.
Coach, thanks for being with us today. Enjoy the open date while you've got it, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, Mike. Thanks a lot. Take care.
With Coach Cutcliffe not available for this time slot, he will be available at 1 o'clock for those of you who have called in to talk to him. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware he will be on right after Coach Richt of Miami. We will have a short break until right at 12:40 when we're joined by Dave Dorn of NC State. Okay, we are back, and we're joined by NC State head coach Dave Dorn, whose Wolfpack ranked 20th by the College Football Playoff rankings, also 20th by AP and 19th by the Amway Coaches Poll, will host Clemson, which is ranked 4th in the CFP, 6th in AP, and 5th in the Coaches Poll this Saturday, Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh. The game will have a 3:30 p.m. kickoff, be nationally televised by ABC. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
Thank you, Mike. Looking forward to homecoming game, a chance to play a great Clemson football team, and two teams fighting for first place in the division. So a ton to play for, and guys have really done a great job preparing and working hard in practice, and obviously got a few more days here to polish things up. But they're a very good team. Explosive offense, balanced offense, and number one defense in the ACC in almost every category. So a great challenge for us with our team, and as we look at, the last game we played, we know we can play better, and losing some key players during the game didn't help, but we still had some opportune moments and some critical errors that cost us at key moments, and all big games come down to one or two or three plays, and so it's going to be a game where those plays have got to go our way, and it's our job as coaches to get them there and their job to finish them, and look forward to watching it happen. Questions?
Questions for Coach Dorn.
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. We have a question from David Ubin with The Athletic. Please proceed.
Dave, how would you compare the Lamar Jackson you guys faced this year to the one you faced a year ago?
Lamar Jackson?
Yes.
Okay, we don't play Louisville this week.
Okay. Do you care to look back at that game at all?
He's a great player.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Our next question is from the line of Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. To follow up on what you said before, obviously you had to deal with that formidable Notre Dame running game last week. What do you want to do better with the run defense as you get ready for a good Clemson running game?
Well, the first thing you got to do is fit the run game the right way, and we had a couple misfits, just guys in the wrong gap, and something that we haven't done. We've been very good at that. You've got to play with low pads, inside hands, shed blocks, leverage the ball, and tackle, and that's what rushing defense is, and that's at all positions because they can make it a DB tackle with a crack block, and guys got to have disciplined eyes so that they're able to strike and play aggressive in the run game. As far as the Notre Dame game, they did a great job. They have a great offensive line, and when we lost three defensive players on the defensive line during that game, our rotation hurt us, as the game wore on. So hopefully we'll be healthier. We were able to get all three of those guys in practice today, so that was a very positive thing, for our defensive rotation up front.
On the flip side, I guess anything you're looking to do better in terms of your running game as you get ready for that stout Clemson defense.
Yeah, well, they make it hard, and they've got a really good front. They got big people, and they rotate, and active linebackers and big safeties. So, for us, it's about being on our tracks and being thick and our contact and running our feet, passing off movements well because they do a good job defensively, with their blitz packages and line movements, and they're going to get heavy on you and try to flatten you out when they play their odd front. So our lines just got to really communicate well together, and tight ends and running backs see the plays that are there to make and go get them.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Dave, Kelly Bryant for them obviously has a bigger role in the run game. How does that make it more challenging to defend this type of Clemson offense?
Yeah, he has, I think, 30 more carries than their tailback, and maybe it's 50 than the other tailback. So he's without a doubt, a threat, not just when they design it for him, but when they drop back and he scrambles. So, similar to when we've played Louisville and other quarterbacks, Syracuse, our D-line's got to be disciplined. We can't just run past them and open up an escape lane. We've got to power the pocket and press it, and when we blitz, we've got to be in our rush lanes and not create seams for him to escape through. And if it's an inside pressure, we got to, have guys that are containing it outside and understand how we work together in pass rush, because that's really important against an athletic guy like Kelly.
You mentioned getting everybody back in practice today. If everybody's able to play, even though they might still be a little bit banged up, do you feel like your rotation will be back to the way you want it to be in this game?
If they're all back, yes. And, you know, we've been able to double train some guys, too, so that's something that we can do if we have to. But Justin Jones was 100% today. He looked great. And Darian practiced the whole practice. And Darius Bryant was out there, and we didn't do as much with him just because at nose tackle there's not a ton that he has to do, you know, so he did his individual work, and then we rested him. But I think we'll have them all, and I think they'll be feeling really good on game day. So we'd be back to, you know, being able to play 8 or 9 guys in the front.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Yep, you bet.
Our next question is from Samuel Evers with Rocky Mount Telegram. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, Ryan Finley has had a great year, and then maybe last week was, maybe subpar for him, and then he threw a pick six, and then the completion percentage wasn't really there. Against, a great team like Clemson, how important is it for him to just kind of get back to mistake-free football?
Well, I mean, anytime you play in a big game, every rep matters, not just for the quarterback. But Ryan's done a great job throughout the season, and it was a tough day to be a throwing quarterback. Up there it was, in the 30s temperature-wise, and the wind was blowing, and it's not an ideal place to throw, so I think being home and having the weather will help him. Second part of it's just learning from his errors and continuing to improve, and I think that's something Ryan does well. He really studies himself, so, he'll use that as an opportunity to be a better player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just, to follow up, what was his week of preparation like, facing back-to-back maybe his two toughest defenses all year?
Right. He's had a great week of prep, and he understands what Coach Drinkwitz wants, and, he has played against this defense before, so he has an idea of what to expect, and, they do a great job in man coverage, and they mix it a lot. There's a lot of different looks that they're going to give you, and they disguise, and they've got an active front. They got 31 sacks, so our timing and our protection is going to be important.
Gotcha. Thanks, Coach.
Any more questions for Coach Doran?
To register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of Larry Williams with Tiger Illustrated. Please proceed.
Yeah, Dave, just trying to get an update on Hines. How does he look in practice today?
He was running around feeling really good. We didn't hit him, so that part we'll still have to see, but he was full speed. He was flying around the field, so we're excited that his progression has been what we would hoped it would be, and tomorrow we'll continue to do more, and we're still 3 days out, so the recovery will continue.
You feel like he can still be as explosive Saturday as he's been before injury?
Yeah, I think, by the time we get to Saturday, unless we have a setback, I feel really confident about it, so I know he did coming off the field today. It's just those things, you just got to continue to get through the hurdles you face on any injury, and you go block a sled, or you hit a moving linebacker and you get put in a weird position, and then the next play you feel fine. Some of that's mental for those guys. You get tackled and rolled up and you pop up and you're good. It's just you got to get through those things in the game. But progression-wise, he's doing really well so far in the recovery.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Coach Doran?
To register for a question, please press 1-4.
Coach, thanks for being with us today. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, Mike. Thank you. Go Pack.
We're now joined by Miami head coach Mark Richt. Obviously, usually Coach Richt ends the teleconference, but we'll have David Cutcliffe after him at 1 o'clock today. But Coach Richt in Miami, ranked 10th in the college football playoff rankings, 9th in AP, 6th in the Amway coaches poll, will host 13th ranked Virginia Tech this Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. The game will have an 8 p.m. kickoff, be nationally televised by ABC. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and then we'll go to questions.
All right. Well, we had our typical Wednesday practice. It was a beautiful day for it. The guys, I thought, practiced well. I thought our scout teamers gave us great effort. Got a lot done today. And, now that the hard work's in, we'll probably be in just shorts and helmets tomorrow and probably go at a pretty light pace. I think they've worked hard and done the things we need to do to this point.
Questions for Coach Richt?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. We have a question from Mike Barber with Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Morning, Coach. As you look at Greg Stroman, their punt returner, and that entire unit, what has made them so dangerous?
Well, first of all, he's a good return man, and usually you got to most of the time you got to make the first guy miss. People talk about that a lot. But even before that, you got to field the ball well. You got to make good decisions on when to return it, when not to. And if the ball is punted long but not enough hang time and there's enough space for him to get started, that's the problem. And then the rest of the guys just have to get in position. His blockers have to get in position to mostly shield guys off. You're not really knocking people down on that play. You're getting in a position where you're shielding them from the return man. And then when there's enough space, good guys with speed and agility can make people miss at the end as well. And usually you make somebody miss on the front end, you get some good blocking, and then at the very end there's usually another guy you got to make miss, and he's got the agility and the speed to do that.
And at this point in the season, I know obviously guys get a little more comfortable in their roles, but you also have guys get dinged up. How would you evaluate your coverage units?
Well, not bad. I think the more we dig deeper into our two-deep lineup on offense and defense, we get a little bit deeper into our special teams depth. And, for example, Travis Homer, our starting running back now, he was the starter on the big four units, punt return, punt, kick return, and kick. And he's the best special teams player we got. Well, now that Walton got hurt and he has to play the majority of the snaps at tailback, we had to pull him off of at least two teams and probably shouldn't even have him starting on two specials, but he won't take himself off, number one, and number two, we just can't afford to lose him. And that's just one example of what happens when you have a little attrition here and there. All of a sudden it trickles down onto your special teams as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from the line of Paul Woody with Richmond Times-Dispatch. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Coach. I'm glad you're having good weather down there.
Thank you.
You and Coach Fuente took over programs at about the same time. When you took the Miami job, did you see it as a program with good bones and just needed some adjustments, or did you feel like there were significant things to do that needed to be done? And
well, I didn't really know. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll ask that as a follow.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I wasn't sure what we had, to be honest with you. I didn't watch film and try to make a determination of do I want to take over this team or not. I just knew I wanted to be back at my alma mater at a place that had the rich tradition of winning and, winning in a big way and being in a fertile recruiting area, which South Florida is. So all those things were the reasons why I decided to come back. And I really wasn't gauging where I thought we were. Once I got to meet the guys and start working with them, I knew, the cupboard was not bare by any means. And the last staff under Al Golden did a good job of recruiting. And so, after living through it a little bit, I realized there were some pretty good ones, and we've also brought a few guys in that have helped us as well.
And what have you seen Coach Fuente do in Blacksburg in his, season and a half up there?
Well, I think the guy is a very detailed coach. I think he demands things to be done a certain way, and his staff does as well. And you see a tough, hard-nosed football team, offensively, defensively, special teams. I think football starts with a certain amount of physical play. And they are very sound in what they do, and they execute well, and that's why they win.
He seems to be able to develop quarterbacks as well.
Oh, yeah. Very good. I mean, first-year starter, he's playing extremely well. A lot of touchdowns, not many interceptions. He's got some outstanding running plays that he's had. He's, made good decisions, not putting the ball into harm's way. I think he's done a wonderful job.
And I noticed in your regular press conference, I guess it was Tuesday, you were very effusive in your praise of Bud Foster. You have a lot of respect for the Tech defense, the job he's done, I take it.
Right. Well, I've known Coach Foster a long time. I've competed against him once or twice, way back when. And you can't help but admire what he's done and what he, is in the middle of doing right now. I mean, the number 2 scoring defense in the United States of America this deep into the season is very significant. It's the number 1 stat in defensive football, points, against your team. And to only have given up, on average, 11 points per game, that's pretty spectacular.
Okay, thank you very much.
You got it.
Our next question is from Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com. Please proceed.
Mark, you guys introduced this turnover chain for your defensive players this year, and it's turned into this huge deal. People wearing shirts, making homemade chains. People around the country want it. I'm curious, when Manny introduced it to the team and when he introduced it to you, did you have any idea it would blow up and become this huge thing it has become?
Well, first of all, it only blows up if you get turnovers. If you don't get turnovers, it stays in the box. It stays in the trunk. So it helps when we get some turnovers and we break it out, and the players get so excited about getting it, but they get excited for their teammates when they get it. And in the very beginning, as soon as they got the turnover, they were popping their helmet off, because you got to take your helmet off to put the chain on. And so they're popping their helmet off at midfield, and we had to tell them, look, you've got to get to the sideline before you take off your helmet, because that's a penalty. And after we, trained them to do that, I feel a whole lot better about it. But it's pure joy for the player and his teammates and the coaches and our fans. And I think that's one thing about this place, the University of Miami in Coral Gables in Paradise, like I call it. And we want to have fun. We want to enjoy life, because life's worth enjoying. And when you're down here in this beautiful weather in this beautiful place, and that's so Miami, a Cuban link chain like that. It's a little gaudy, but hey, that's how we roll.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Our next question is from Ken Segura with the Atlanta New Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I was wondering, I have a question for you about the early signing period. Has that already approached changed the way you approach things at all with recruiting?
Well, we'd like everybody who's committed to us to go ahead and sign in the early signing period. We're hoping that they'll do that. And there are a lot of kids that come in January, and there was never a signing day for them. And this provides a nice ceremony, for them and their family. I think it's great, and I'm hoping that even the guys that aren't mid-year enrollees will be kids that want to sign, knock it out, and be ready to help recruit the rest of their class.
Will you be okay if someone wants to wait, or do you kind of see that as a sign that maybe I'm not fully on the boat?
Yeah. Well, we'll cross that bridge when it happens, but I'm sure that will be on a person-by-person basis on what we'll decide to do about that.
Right. Are you in favor of being even earlier than it is?
Am I in favor of what, sir?
Of the early signing period actually being even earlier than
Well,
December?
I don't know yet. I think we got to live through it a year or two and figure out if it's a great thing or not so great.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from the line of Norm Wood with the Daily Press. Please proceed.
Hi, Mark. Greg Nusau, he's one of your offensive quality control guys, and
right.
He's a Virginia Tech alum also. I know when guys kind of get to this stage of their career, they kind of have to set aside allegiances and those kinds of things to work toward to gain and to make this a full-time employment type situation for them if they can. But does that ever cross your mind, or about the guys that are kind of scouting and working and that kind of thing?
No,
yeah, I don't know.
Not about his loyalty. No, I don't have any question at all. And I mean, I played at Miami, and then I coached at Florida State for 15 years. So I mean, I was the enemy of my former teammates for 15 years. And but I would say the first time that I was coaching in a game with the other colors on besides my alma mater, it was weird. And I was still a pretty young guy, and some of the coaches and even the players that were still there that when I was at Miami, so it was very awkward. But once you kick it off, it's time to try to win.
Do you have much interaction with Greg during the course? I know he works with Stacy quite a bit, but what does Greg do for you? What are his duties?
Oh my gosh, just so much. The background work as far as film breakdowns and just helping to prepare things for scouting reports and just learning ball and interjecting things that he knows and has experienced. He's a very sharp guy.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
We have a question from the line of Leo Haggerty with It's Sports Magazine. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Hello.
Coach, the way you played this year, you put yourself in a position to control your own destiny. Is it nice to know that you don't have to look for help from anybody else, but just concentrate on winning the game in front of you?
Well, this deep into the season, yes. When the season starts, everybody controls their own destiny, so to speak. But at this point, that's where we're at. We've been blessed to win every game. We know there's been a lot of tight ones, and quite frankly, last year we had 3 very close games, and we lost all 3 of them. And then we had a game against Virginia Tech last year, and it wasn't very close. So that was our 4 losses last year. And then this year we've had 3 or 4 tight ball games in a row and found a way to win every one of them. So that's kind of the formula. Win your close games, and then hopefully have a few where there's not quite so much drama, and keep winning and moving on to the next stage. And we're happy to be undefeated, but we know there's a lot more meat on the bone, so to speak, when it comes to our schedule. And Virginia Tech is not a good team, but a great team in our mind.
Coach, last question, and thank you for your time today. Do the ACC schedule makers have to start looking at providing a bye week for both teams that have to play on a Thursday or Friday night, just to make it an even playing field?
There's no question. I don't think anybody should play on a short week when someone else, has 12 days to prepare. There's no way that should ever happen. And I don't think anybody should really have to go Saturday to Thursday, if at all possible. That's a tough turnaround, and it's not only tough for coaches to prepare, but it's just not good for the players. They need time to recover. They don't get that time. It's a midweek game. They got school. They got exams. They got all these things, and it's just not a very comfortable way of going about business. I think if you get a Thursday night game, have an open date prior to that, if at all possible.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
All right. We'll see you.
Coach, this is Mike Finn in Greensboro. Thanks for being with us. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
We're now joined by Duke head football coach David Cutcliffe, whose Blue Devils will have an open date this weekend. Will next be in action on Saturday, November the 11th, when they travel to West Point, New York, for a game against Army West Point. The game will have a noon kickoff, be televised nationally by the CBS Sports Network. Coach, just a brief opening statement, and we'll go to questions.
All right. Obviously, it's a good time for us to have had an open date after 9 straight games, and really impressed with our team spirit. We practiced yesterday morning. We practiced again this morning. They have been resourceful. These are as two as good of practices as we've had. So certainly I know there's hope that we can continue to improve and win some of these close games that we've had and play better where we are in every game down the stretch. 3 to go, so we'll see what happens.
Questions for Coach Cutcliffe?
If you'd like to register for a question, please press 1-4. We have a question from Bill Haas of Greensboro.
David, can you talk about how important it is after 9 weeks and then 4 weeks of practice before that for the players to take a mental break from football as well as physical?
Well, I think it's a big deal, and this is actually a 5-week camp this year. This was the longest camp because of the rule change. So we started in July. Our first practice was in July, and then we played 9 weeks in a row. And I think it has some. I just heard Mark Rick talking about Thursday game. But players are going to school, the stress of tests and the requirements along those lines, and then when you're playing every week, and particularly in our circumstance where things got tougher each loss, I think they are stressed beyond physical. It's emotional. So we've tried to take that in consideration. We've had shortened meetings, not just brutally short, but less than an hour and a half on the field. But we've gotten the quality we wanted from them, and then we're going to work even a little bit lighter tomorrow. And I want them away from it. They'll be away from it Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, and we won't be back till Sunday night.
Have the last few games, what have they shown you about your team that that you think it's possible to get in there and fix some areas that you really want to work on?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that it's very evident to the players, to the coaches. Offensively, we haven't thrown and caught the ball with much efficiency like we had earlier in the year. Giving up some explosive plays on defense. And it's not been literally just one thing. We are a team, we have 7 seniors that start for us. We're playing a lot of young people. That's not an excuse because our job is to have everybody ready. But, again, it's probably consistency. And so it's one of the other reasons we shortened practice, and I talked to our coaches, is that I wanted to see if we could go wire to wire at the highest level possibly. And I'm really impressed with the way our team has taken on that challenge.
And we have a question from Ken Segura with the Atlanta News-Journal-Constitution. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. I had a question for you about the early signing period. I'm curious, has that already kind of changed some of the way you do things as far as recruiting in your calendar?
Not really. The signing day is not going to affect 2019 class is going to be taking official visits in April, June. I'm not in favor of that at all, and that significantly changes their calendar, our calendar, making our class committed for quite some time. I don't expect any surprises, and
I think we've lost Coach Cutcliffe here. David, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Go ahead. If you don't mind, just go ahead and start with your answer from the beginning, Because you were breaking up during that
well,
whole time.
I apologize. I'm in the car traveling. But the early signing day isn't really going to affect us. It's the 2019 class early official visits. They're signing in December. But we've had our class committed for quite some time, so that portion of it has not really been a big issue to us.
Will you bring in kids that have already signed for visits in January, or do you know how that'll be approached?
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you now, Coach. Very well.
All right. Well, I'm trying hard. I'm even talking fast, and for a boy from Alabama, that's hard.
Coach, I know like kids that when they're kind of secured with you, that as far as getting them committed, they take their visits kind of the official visits kind of as a reward, I guess. And would you do that still with kids that are signed already, like in December, bring them in for their officials in January?
Most of our visits will be in December. It's what our commitments have always really wanted to do. If they can't because of some scheduling circumstance, then we would bring them in. We may have 3 or so mid-year enrollees, but most of our class will come in, next summer. So they can still make their official visits after they've signed with us, and we would go about what we do the same way. And what I was saying before is that December, January, we're going to the biggest change is we're going to be having to do a great deal more evaluating of 2019 players, because they're going to be wanting to make official visits in April. Well, how do you know? That's a nightmare. That's something I am totally against as far as legislation.
So you kind of already planning that to block out time in December, January to start looking at kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm going to go into homes and schools of everybody that we're going to sign. I always have and always will. I want to know their families, the dynamics surrounding the families. My only chance to do that as a head coach is in December and January. So I'm going to do that. But while I'm on the road, I'm going to have to be doing the best I can of evaluating 2019 players that may want to set up visits in April. And I'm not all in favor of just, bringing people in that I don't know enough about their character, their academics, let alone even their athleticism completely by that point. So I'm going to be trying to go to basketball games and see athletes for what they are, or just see workouts in the weight room, or we've had a lot of conversation about that type thing as a staff, is that we got to get as many evaluations as we can with those young people.
I would guess because of that, it maybe makes even more sense to push up the early signing period to September, August, even less.
Possibly, again, we've tried to move up, and I'm not sure that's the best approach to people making quality decisions. If you start looking at transfer rates in other sports, and now you even see like men's lacrosse are trying to move all theirs back. These kids sign early, way early. And then the next thing you know, they're in an institution a year and they don't want to be there. I just don't think that's the healthiest approach. Earlier is not always better. And I think we've got to be careful. I think we need a little bit more maturity in our approach as we study this personally.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Coach, thanks for being with us today. Thanks for getting the extra time. Enjoy your open date, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thanks, Mike. Take care.
This concludes today's ACC Football Coaches Teleconference. Please join us next week when Once again, we'll begin at 10:20 with Brian Kelly of Notre Dame.